Hello, caller.
Do you believe in Illuminati?
It's possible. Do I believe in Illuminati? I think it's very possible. There's definitely a globalist agenda, which is different than an imperialist agenda. An imperialist agenda is about countries, nations. Imperialism is what America does in the Middle East, or what Britain did all over the world, or whatever. I guess America does all over the world. That's imperialism. Globalism is what you're seeing now, and which I think would be more in line with something like the Illuminati, where you have these multinational corporations and these wealthy people who are so wealthy, so rich, so powerful, that they have more power than governments. Think about all those rich people on Jeffrey Epstein's island. We talked about it here. Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton was caught getting a massage from one of Jeffrey Epstein's victims. Trump and Epstein were friends until he kicked him out of Mar-a-Lago. Virginia Giuffre, the woman who said that Prince Andrew, who won the lawsuit against Prince Andrew, that he's going to have to pay her for raping her when she was a kid, basically. She said Alan Dershowitz, who is the superstar lawyer. They also named Governor Bill Richardson, who's a very prominent Democratic, who was the governor of New Mexico. He was going to run for president some years ago. I'm guessing maybe the smoke around this is the reason he didn't run for president. And a bunch of other rich, the Israeli prime minister, he was one of the people who was seen at Jeffrey Epstein's island. They'll try to make you out to be a loon if you start bringing up the child abuse stuff and the sexual stuff. But think about it. Ghislaine Maxwell has been convicted for, I think, about 3 or 4 months ago. It had to be less than 6 months ago, because I covered the story here. I did cover the story. And yet we haven't heard one iota about the government exposing the men who were in her and Jeffrey Epstein's black book. The media shows no concern about finding out who those men were who were having sex with children. None whatsoever. They admit that she was doing it. They admit Prince Andrew did it. Was his brother King Charles doing it? A lot of people don't know this, and I found this out recently, that King Charles's best friend was this entertainer in England named Jimmy Savile. If you can ever look up Jimmy Savile, Savile, Jimmy Savile, you can Google that name. Look up the child abuse scandal with him. It's like Cosby on steroids, in terms of the amount of people who came forward. But this was all young kids instead of women. He was a very famous comedian in England and was King Charles's best friend. King Charles was best friends with a man who, after he died, it came out that he had sexually molested hundreds of kids, particularly children, in children's hospitals. The man had a key to the hospital, so he could have access to the children whenever he wanted. And none of this came out until after he died. None of it. And this man was so close with King Charles, the now new King of England, that he was on the short list to be the godfather of Prince Harry and Prince William. Straight up. This man was going to be the godchildren to the future King of England, was best friends with the current King of England, and was one of the most prolific child molesters in modern history. King Charles's brother, Prince Andrew, is only not a convicted child molester because we can't get him in the country to try him, and England won't send him over here for us to try him. But he's going to have to pay a teenage girl millions, $10 million, I believe, because he had sex with her, thanks to Jeffrey Epstein. That's the type of stuff that if the Illuminati is out there, that's what you're talking about. The families with the type of access and the wealth to shield themselves while they do whatever the heck they want. And it's only going to get worse because the rich are just getting richer while the poor get poorer. The pandemic has contributed greatly to that dynamic. And so now people like Jeff Bezos, people like Elon Musk, these people have so much wealth, so much power, that God knows what they will be able to do under the guise of globalization or globalism with their agenda. Bill Gates already forced billions of people to get a vaccine that now we're seeing massive health effects from. I didn't take it. God bless all of you who did. I ain't take it. I wasn't gonna take it. That's why I'm wearing this mask in the building by myself. Okay, that was the deal I made with the radio station. Okay, but I ain't gonna take it, and I wasn't gonna take it. It is what it is. Bill Gates, doesn't tell me what to do. Okay, but that's the type of stuff that we're talking about here. That's the type of stuff that we're talking about here. Let me get these callers before I do the happy happies. Hello, caller.
Hey, Scott.
What's up?
Before the Queen died, she gave that girl over $12 billion. So that's the reason why he's not coming to the States to get tried.
Yep. Virginia Giuffre. That's her name.
Yeah. Now, they had a picture she had on I guess you call it a belly shirt.
Yeah.
And you seen his arms around her.
Yeah.
She was like 16, 17 years old then.
Yeah.
But Scott, by the time this hit the trial, she was in her 30s,
Yep.
almost 40 years old.
Yeah.
Now, this shows you the statute of limitations do not leave when it comes to a child. They still prosecuted Grass Lane.
Mm-hmm.
And she had to tell because they was giving her 60 years and broke it down to 20.
Mm-hmm.
So, you're right. Because Whitney Houston talked about the Illuminati before she died. And then you think about it, the FBI was involved with, they knew who had killed Malcolm X, but then years later, they finally bring it out.
Yep.
So you think you think about all that stuff they talk about now with the FBI, and, anytime 51 Justice Department people lose their security clearance, that's let you know something wrong.
Mm-hmm.
This is the first time in our life this has ever happened.
Mm-hmm.
So, you right. You on the right thing, brother.
Well, thank you very much. I got to take this other caller.
Okay, then.
Call back
All right.
anytime. Hello, caller.
What about the Playboy Mansion?
Yes. I'm glad you brought that up. Thank you for your call. Yeah, Hugh Hefner, the degenerate Hugh Hefner. It's funny, again, everybody's gone after Cosby, but when Hugh Hefner was alive, nobody went after Hugh Hefner, at least since the 80s or 90s. Don't get me wrong, in the 60s and 70s and 80s, the Republicans were trying to get Hefner and the other fat guy, I forget what his name is, who was in a wheelchair. They made a movie about him that was with Woody Harrelson. That was a really good movie. I watched it. I forgot what his name was, but it was Hefner and the other pornographer guy that they went after criminally. And they never got him, but the stuff that started coming out about Hefner after he died, bestiality, prostitution, pimping, all these horrific crimes that he had committed, and everybody had been covering for him all this time, in wide open. Even the government, the Republicans could not get him on obscenity or any of that other stuff. That lets you know he was being protected. by somebody in the government. Because even if you look at a lot of the old documentaries they do on Playboy 10, 20 years ago, on things like VH1 and biography or whatever, they would talk about how the Sultan of Brunei and like these girls would be sold off to rich guys in Saudi Arabia, and that's the new thing. For all you who have young daughters and I guess sons too, with social media, Instagram, all the Instagram models, they are being flown out to Dubai to be defiled by these sheiks, by these celebrities. It's Africa too. I mean, let's keep it real. These are a lot of the famous models you see, because there's a lot of young women now who are just famous for taking pictures on Instagram. And that's it. And they feel, a lot of them have a lot of plastic surgery to look like the Kardashians or somebody. And yeah, that's the new industry. They sell their bodies to these princes and these oil sheiks and these kings and all these other people. And again, it's a whole industry and people don't talk about it openly, but it's there. And Playboy was at the forefront of that. Hugh Hefner was at the forefront of selling these women. And again, even the U.S. government, the Republicans couldn't get him back in the 70s and 80s. So that lets you know he was being protected by somebody else, which again, just goes to show you how powerful the type of people that he had on his side were. That even the Jerry Falwells and the Pat Robertsons and all those people who tried to bring Playboy down could not bring him down. And don't think for one second that all this hasn't come out after he died for a reason. Just like Jimmy Savile in England, who was the king's best friend and could have been the godfather to Harry and William, there's a reason that came out after he died. Hello, caller.
Do you think people are scared if Trump go to jail? What he knows?
Oh yeah, that's a good.
Like you have got plenty of secrets about people.
That's a good question.
If you had told about what was going on in this Playboy match, to kill O'Neal in a bunch of entertainment, have been at the Playboy match.
Yeah.
So if the walls of the Playboy match was talk, how many entertainers, and I'm not saying race, I said entertainers, would be in jail right now listed as pedophiles?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And with all the information that Donald Trump knows, how many people right now you think are sitting praying that Donald Trump and his family don't get to a position where they're facing time, where they can say, "Hey, we got some information for you."
I agree. I absolutely agree. Thank you for your call. That's a good question. And Mar-a-Lago had all the celebrities. Remember, Donald Trump himself had access to people like the one who's from Maryville. I forget what me and Jonathan talked about her when we were on Mondays. One of the Trump accusers was from Maryville, but she was in Playboy. She's one of them. Hefner was probably pimping out. Stormy Daniels, all those porn stars, they're all being shipped off to those sheiks and kings and princes and everything as well. It's a whole little industry over there. And Donald Trump, he said about Jeffrey Epstein, he said the thing that me and Jeff have in common is like that we both like young, beautiful women. Think about that. Think about that. The former president of the United States said that me and this pedophile love young, beautiful women. So, we know that Trump's in Epstein's black book. We know Clinton's in there. Just imagine who else is on there. And you better believe Trump, still being alive, for now, knows exactly who else was there with all those young, beautiful women with him and Bill Clinton and Jeffrey Epstein. And again, that's why it's important to remember exactly who the FBI are, who our government is, who they're in bed with, who they're in cahoots with, and what they help to maintain. All right, folks, when we come back, happy happies.